It's the month of Elul, which must mean it's shofar time. Shofar. Oh, see, yours is a smiley face. Mine
Yeah.
is more of a like a sine wave or cosine or something.
I got one of those too.
I
All
know you
right.
do. I know you do. Hey, hi.
How are
So
you, Rabbi David? Nice to
I'm
see you.
good. I'm good. So
I
it
hang
is
my shofar right over here.
yes. I've always, you know what I want to get? I want to be able to put it in my, like, I have a holster. I need a chauffeur holster on the side here.
Uh,
That's the only kind of holster that we should have, is one to hold our shofar.
right.
I'm just saying. So, in any case, it's Elul, which means it is officially. Oh, wait, I disappeared. It is officially shofar time. We're blowing it every morning except Shabbat, and anticipating the coming of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which I guess means you're working on your sermons.
A
Yeah,
little bit.
a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Good. So, what we thought we'd talk about today is what does this mean? What does it mean to us today? Well, and we can start with what did it mean. Sorry for that beep. We can start about what has it meant historically, and then I really also want to just dive into, like, to you, Rabbi Litwick, or to me, or to anyone who's watching, what what are these calls? What are these blasts? What's their intention for us? What's their purpose for us as we are about to embark on this new year? Do you want to kind of start us out with maybe some of the historical stuff, or where should we
Well,
start?
I- we know that the shofar is one of our most ancient instruments, and it was both an instrument that was used as part of the sacrificial cult in the temple, and but it was even before that. We know that the shofar, the blast of the shofar, was part of Matan Torah, of the giving of Torah itself. Uh, and we can go back even further, which I'm going to talk about later. Is there's a connection between the ram that Abraham sacrificed instead of his son Isaac. So this this instrument has been around for a long time. It's got multiple uses, not only from a worship standpoint,
Uh,
and
uh,
as
yeah, there's an interesting debate that I came across between the Baal Shem Tov and King David. Obviously, they're not contemporaries, but so the Baal Shem Tov, as one would expect, the founder of Chassidut, he argues that the shofar is all about our emotion, kind of sort of tapping into our emotion, and that opening us up in such a way that we're able to be more in tune with ourselves on an emotional level. Whereas King David, he in Psalms, the book of Psalms 89, he says, "Happy are those who know the shofar," which leads one to think about, no, that shofar is actually more of an intellectual exercise, right? That we hear this and it's to remind us. It's like the piece of string around our finger or the note in our backpack to remind us to intellectually to engage in this process. Which of those feels more resonant to you, the emotional or the intellectual?
I look, I think they both resonate to me. I would probably say the former rather than the later, because so much of my life is an intellectual exercise
Yeah.
that I sometimes need to be reminded of the emotional aspect of uh, Jewish life and my own personal life. And so if I think about what are the things that the shofar, what do I hear in the shofar today? One of the first things is that the shofar is meant to stir our conscience, similar to what the Baal Shem Tov said. And I think about what it is that I want to change for the coming year. And this year I've spent a lot of time as I prepare, and I hear the shofar even now, about thinking about how I can be better aligned between my thoughts and my actions.
Hmm.
Right? That my intentions may be good, but my actions belie, um, you know, what I'm really thinking about or not.
Hmm.
And so I want to bring those two together.
Can I just reflect on that? That's so beautiful because for me, in some ways, I think I'm a little bit the opposite sometimes. I think that sometimes I put on a show in my actions that is not reflective of where I am emotionally, and that also is not fair to me or anyone else, right? It's so there's both sides of it. There's on the one hand, sometimes my I we don't make sure that our actions match our emotions, and other times we're not always certain that our emotions are matching our actions. Yeah,
Wow.
I don't know. Just you
Okay.
brought that out for me. Yeah.
So what are you hearing in the shofar?
So here here's the thing about the shofar. For me, the shofar is in many ways it's like tefillah, it's like prayer or study for that matter, even in the sense that I've done so much of it. I've heard it so often that I spend more time worrying that I've grown numb to it than about what specifically it has to say to me. I'm afraid that in some ways it more than just it's become rote, but it's become work. And maybe this is a problem for us rabbis. I don't know, but you know that I
There,
remember what
there's
I
a performative aspect of
yeah,
this,
absolutely.
and you want to get it right. And I really I mentioned this during the High Holy Days, that this is not a spectator sport. Okay? I might be blowing the whistle, blowing the shofar, hey, but you've got to either do what you're supposed to be doing with that whistle blow or not doing, stopping what you're doing. And so often I feel like people come and they can't wait to look and time the Tekiah
Yeah.
Gedolah. Um, and don't get me wrong, I love a good Tekiah Gedolah, but we have we've been intentional on Rosh Hashanah that we actually move. We go from facing the congregation, okay, in the first set of blasts, okay, to facing the ark in the second set of blasts, and then actually going into the ark for the third set of blasts.
I didn't
And
know that.
and we want people. We don't want. I don't want people looking at
Right.
me, looking at how my face is turning red. I just want them to hear the sound.
Wow.
Right? And so I'm. They don't get to see me in my full
Yeah.
red face glory. Uh,
That's fascinating. I had no idea that you did.
yeah.
That's really beautiful.
I was doing that maybe 2 years ago.
Wow. So, um, you just reminded me that when you said, that it's not a spectator sport, that the mitzvah is not to blow shofar. It's not. How would you even say to blow? I'm not even sure. But
Right.
it's lishmoa. It's to
Yeah.
hear it, and that's the idea that hearing it is actually an active state, not passive. Is I mean, we all anyone who's in a marriage, I think, knows that to really be a good listener means you have to be active. Um,
Right.
there's can I share with you a quick? So I found this beautiful little gem which I had probably heard, but I refound it, rediscovered it. So this is from the Dubno Magid, and the Dubno Magid says. He says a poor farmer had a wealthy uncle who lived in the city and who invited him for a visit. Thrilled with the invitation, the farmer wasted no time setting out for his rich uncle's home. When he arrived, he was greeted warmly and led immediately into a large dining hall with a long table. And they spoke and they shared stories about family. The uncle picked up a brass bell and clanged it. Immediately, troops of servants emerged from the side doors with trays of appetizers. The farmer had never seen anything like this. The servants served the food and went back to the kitchen, and they continued their conversation. Shortly thereafter, he clanged the bell again, and here they come out, taking the empty plates away and bringing out the new food, the next course. And the farmer's eyes bulged. He'd never seen such enormous quantities of food. And so this went on for the evening. And each time the uncle rang the bell, this entourage would come out serving new food, removing the old food and bringing out the new food. So when it was time to leave, the farmer thanked his uncle heartily and made a stop at the local store on his way home. And when he arrived, he woke up his wife and he excitedly told her, "You're not going to believe what I just did." And she said, "What?" He said, "I spent our last penny." "You what? What did you do?" He says, "Don't worry. I spent it on something you'll thank me a million times for buying." This, the farmer said, is a magic bell. He had purchased a brass bell. He took it. He said, "This is a magic bell." His wife looked at him as if he was crazy. Undaunted, the man said, "You'll see. When I ring this, immediately servants are going to come out and serve us the most exquisite food, more than we can ever imagine." Well, of course, the servants didn't come out because the bell had no magic. And so what's the, right? That was the mashal. What's the nimshal? What's the lesson of this story? Is that the bell only worked when it was used to signal servants who were already waiting in the wings. That is to say, the shofar will work, but only if we're waiting in the wings.
Right.
I love that so much. And it brings me right back to what you were saying about how this isn't a spectator sport, that this is the opening bell, as it were, to remind us and to get our attention.
I'll tell you, I have two other things that I've been thinking about when it came to what I'm hearing in the shofar this year. The first one is the shofar in the Tanakh, in the Hebrew Bible, was also used to call to battle. Think about the siege on Jericho. And blowing the trumpets that brought down the walls of Jericho. And so for me, I'm not being called to war, but I'm thinking about it as a call to what battle. What do I need to battle over this year? And for me, that is democracy. Democracy in the United States and democracy in the land of Israel. And the truth is, all over the world, liberal democracy is being challenged. That the values and assumptions that underlie democracy are under attack. And we know what happens when a democratic society loses its collective sense of what truth is and what facts are, and what happens when our civic virtues are eroded to the point when there are no longer guardrails. And for me, I am going to be hearing in the shofar a call to battle for democracy. Without giving away too much, I will be speaking about it on the High Holy Days.
You know, I was watching the Republican primary debate last night, and all I could think about was just how much noise there was. There was just so much noise. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I literally mean just there was the audience, the moderators, the candidates, there was just everyone was talking over each other. And I think that there are two ways to get someone's attention, to wake someone up. One is to make a really loud noise. And that's clearly what, the candidates who speak the loudest and the most are the ones who kind of win the day, I think, in most cases. The other way to do it is to get really quiet, especially with kids here. You know, if you want their attention, if you get really quiet, sort of that, it reminds me of that still small voice. And so I think about how the shofar is sort of that loud, piercing noise that no matter how loud it is in our world, no matter how distracted we are from what's important, there's this really loud, piercing noise that says, pay attention. And in the same breath, there's also that still small voice that, and so one of the two is bound to work for us. It's bound to get us to quiet down and get our attention. And so I'm thinking about how much noise there is in the world
Oh,
and how
you,
difficult it is.
yeah, oh, for sure. And you led me to the third thing, um, which is, um, when I spoke about the shofar being a symbol of the ram that Abraham sacrificed instead of his son Isaac. I asked my question. I asked the question to myself: what am I ready to sacrifice?
Mm.
What sacrifices do I need to make in my life? And for me, this year, I want it to be a call for me to appreciate the natural world. And I think about that this is a natural
Yeah.
product,
Right.
right? It's slightly manipulated. I mean, it's it may be carved. You need to create a hole there, um, but it's really manipulated very very little. And so for me, uh, this is a call to hear the natural world. And that means I have to sacrifice or reduce my electronic consumption. I have to
Have
start
you do you do
listening.
that on Shabbat? Have you ever done that on Shabbat? Like tried to not I've tried and it's really hard for me because I'm
Yeah,
terrible. I'm just so addicted. I mean,
right,
Shabbat is such an obvious time to try to, to do that. And
right,
it
right. And I think I'm just reflecting on what you said. How hard it is
mm,
to hear in our urban environment, how hard it is to really hear when we have so many distractions. And yet, if we go back to the shofar and you say it's a piercing blast, for me, right, it is not the piercing blast, right, that's so powerful. It is the hush that comes right after it.
in between.
Right?
Yeah.
It is really good ballet tequila, really good shofar blowers. It's such a clean sound, right, that each one is a note in and of itself, right? And there is a silence after that. And I want to
There's it when
share
you hit
that
when it
silence.
goes doot, and then there's like right after that there's that stillness.
Right. Or
Yeah.
even the split, it's really, it tends to be a split second after the Tequila Gadola.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
everybody is like,
Right. One of
got to
my
make a comment.
one of my favorite things to do when I've had the honor of taking groups to Israel is when we're down at like at Masada or En Gedi or something, is to take them out at night into the not far, but into the desert a little bit, and to talk about and think about why did God reveal God's self in the desert, and and I'm convinced that it's because that's really the only place where it's quiet enough, and there are few enough distractions that we as human beings have the capacity to actually really listen and hear God. I'm convinced that God is always talking to us, but the lights are so bright, the noises are so loud that those silences and whatever may exist in them is really very difficult for us to hear. That's such a beautiful
Yeah.
takeaway for this year.
Yeah. Other thoughts from you? Those are really my three: stirring my
Yeah.
conscience, going to battle for democracy, and sacrificing the my addiction to electronics to be able to really just hear myself and hear what's going on around me in the natural world.
I'll tell you. I'll just add one thing onto this, and that is one of the things that it always brings out for me. Uh, I I'm kind of a frummy wannabe. I'm like a Chabad wannabe. Like I wear the tzitzit, and it's not for show. I mean, it's genuine. I've worn them since I was 16. But I'm not frum. I'm not Orthodox by any stretch of the imagination. I have lived in that world for a number of years, and I know how beautiful it is and how powerful it can be. And so there's has always been a little piece of me that has wanted to do that, and I don't. And I have good reasons for why I don't. There are lots of other pieces about that theology and philosophy that just don't gel at all with who I am as a liberal American Jew. But one of the things that I hear in the shofar is, am I living my best Jewish life? Right? Am I doing the not enough? It's because it's not a competition, but for me, enough for me. Am I doing as much as my soul needs? I'm not quite sure how to say this, but for me, it's a push, not only for my moral conscience and but for my Jewish conscience. Right? Is there more that I can be doing? Should I be trying to be gadget free on Shabbat? Should I be trying this, that, or the other thing? I don't know. That's something that it always challenges me about.
It's great.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure that like most New Year's resolutions, I'm not sure that I pay enough attention to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not sure I pay enough attention to it. Maybe that would be a nice blessing for this year. Is to for all of us to spend a little bit of time thinking about what do we hear, and then, as you said the way you started this, it's not enough to just passively hear it. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? That's really
Yeah.
what it's about.
Well, thank you.
I kind of love the laid back ones where I just get to learn from you. It's really nice. It's really very beautiful. So, by the way, for those of you who do watch our services online, please, please, please check your email. We are going to be streaming, but you will need a special link to watch those streams. We want to keep everyone safe, so please check your email. If for whatever reason you didn't get it, you can't find it, call the temple office. We'll hook you up. Absolutely.
Everybody have a Shabbat Shalom and a Shana Tova Umetuka.
Absolutely. Rock Shabbat tomorrow night. Come to Rock Shabbat, 6:15. It's going to be fantastic. Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.